When I see the results, I really want to touch again this camera, go out and film with this, because at the end, the performance of the EOS R1 is better than the EOS R3 and also better than the EOS C400 camera, which is a dedicated cinema camera made by Canon.
What's new in filmmaking technology this week? News, reviews, education, insights, opinions, and ideas from the CineD newsroom with Nino Leitner and Johnny Bahiri. This is Focus Check, the weekly Cinetech podcast.
Hi everyone, welcome to CineD Focus Check, and this is episode 69. I can't believe it. We are, it's really amazing that we are so consistent with that. And Nino, how are you? Actually, Nino is not here.
Well, we also recorded at the weirdest times for whoever is traveling from us. And for me, it's now, 6 a.m. here in New York.
That's crazy.
But yeah, I'm very happy that we managed to record every week since we started. Yeah.
That's right. So, guys, as you can see, Nino is in New York attending the BILD Expo that B&H initiated. So we have a lot on the agenda today. In general, we're going to talk about Nino's feeling about the show. We're going to talk about the Canon EOS R1 lab test that we created and just published. We're going to talk about the new Manfrotto 1, which looks like a very nice hybrid tripod. What else on the agenda? Sigma 17 to 40 millimeter f1.8 APS-C lens. We're going to talk about, Disney and Universal and NBCUniversal are suing Midjourney. Well, maybe it's about time. We talk about this too. And then, of course, there are a couple of updates. One is the Blackmagic Video Assist that whoever is owning the LUMIX S12 and S12E can now record externally in RAW, in Blackmagic RAW. We also, by the time that you see this, we already have online a new poll, and this time it's about 32-bit float audio. We really want to know if you guys going to buy any audio equipment that doesn't have it yet. So stay tuned for that. Last but not least, we're going to talk about a new MZed course that we are about to initiate, and this is the Efficient Filmmaker series, and this is with our very own Masha. Nino will have all the details about it. But first of all, Nino, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thanks for the great introduction. It's a good overview. At the time of recording, I'm just before the second day of BILD Expo. By the time you see this, the show will be over. Yesterday was the first day, and it's my first time here. I mean, it's the second time they do this show. The first time they made it in 2023. And originally, this was supposed to be a celebration of B&H's 50th anniversary in 23, and that was supposed to be a one-time event. But there was so much positive feedback that they decided to put it on again. And I think, John, you will also remember when we went to IBC a couple weeks after the last build, because the last one was in September 23. And there were so many people from manufacturers and audience alike that were at the BILD Expo and were just raving about how great it was, what kind of different event it was. And I can only now really understand why. I mean, the amount of people, I actually shot some, I took some shots with my phone, which we can show here in the podcast as well. It's incredible. I mean, they had 57,000 signups up until the day before yesterday. If I'm not mistaken, I think the entire NAB, which is a 4-day event, and of course a much more established one, had 66,000 attendees this year, if I'm not wrong. So, I mean, it doesn't mean that all of the 57,000 show up, but it certainly felt that way yesterday. I mean, it was packed with people. And it really is mainly an educational event. So it's 2 floors at the Javits Center here in New York City, right at the Hudson River. And so the middle floor or the lower floor is actually an exhibition hall. It's 3 times as big as 2 years ago. It really feels, when you go in there, it feels like, a smallish, not so small show anymore in terms of even the footprint now. It's like, I would compare it to BSC. Maybe, BSC is probably around the same size maybe in terms of exhibition space. There's a lot of exhibitors here. I think 250.
But Nino,
So kind of the same thing as we have at trade shows. But then the floor above that is all the content, like the presentation stages.
Nino,
And,
but why do you think that the manufacturers like this show? Because for me, it looks as if there are a lot of end users. So basically,
Exactly.
people can touch and try. That's your impression too?
I think I absolutely, it's only end users, I would say. Like everybody who's here is running around with a camera. You can see that the average age is quite low. I was invited to the creator/partner dinner by B&H the day before it started, and they went through some of the numbers, and I think, I don't know the exact number, but I think like 30% or 40% of the people signed up are around are below 30, I think. So you have a very young audience here. A lot of people who are starting out, really coming in from all over the US. But of course, New York being a huge city, a lot of people are living here or around New York City, and they just came in for this.
Do you think it's going to make kind of like the exhibitions the way we know them? What is your opinion? I think maybe it's going to shift from those bigger general exhibitions like NAB and
well, you can see people are coming for the education and not coming for the gear,
okay.
right? They're coming for, I mean, there's 100 different speeches, people presenting different stuff, and it's coming all running in parallel. There's like 5 stages, like a main stage, filmmaking stage, content creation stage, photography stage, and one more that I forgot. But there's a lot of different stuff happening at the same time, and to a degree where some of those things are, I mean, many of them are, the rooms are packed. You cannot imagine, like, you have to show up really early for a talk in order to get a seat or just get into the room. And then a lot of people have to wait outside all the time. So that was incredible to see. Also, the keynote speech by Christina Mittermeier, very good conservationist photographer, with a huge following on Instagram. She's amazing. Yeah, she had an amazing keynote speech. I mean, there were probably 2,000-3,000 people just in that room, and they had hundreds of others waiting outside. It was incredible.
From your observation, do you think that, or maybe you got a little tip, will B&H consider to do this as a yearly event, or this is simply much too expensive?
Well, the B&H CEO already addressed that at the dinner, and he said that they haven't decided yet. He was like, ask me about another build after those 2 days. And I think it's, even though I'm just ahead of the second day, I think it's fair to say that, I mean, they will probably put another one on, considering how successful this is, and the amount of people. Of course, everything is free. This must be an enormous expense, but they do, however, there's a lot of sponsors attached to that. So a lot of the speakers here are sponsored by a brand, and they probably pay for everything around that. And of course they make some money with the exhibition space as well. I don't know, of course, the numbers, but I think in terms of promotion and also like putting this up as a really nice branding event for B&H, it's amazing. I mean, you can tell that they've always been about. If you walk into their shop in Midtown Manhattan, the fascinating thing is that you can talk to people who know about the stuff. You know what I mean? It's like if you're going into a random Best Buy type kind of electronics store, I mean, you almost expect people to know nothing about, the product, or only superficial specs information. That's very different with B&H, and that's really become their USP, I would say, and I think that's what people appreciate. And if you talk to people here in the US, I mean, it's all about loyalty in a way that, like people have started buying stuff from them for a long time, but not because they couldn't buy it elsewhere. It's mostly because of like being able to talk to somebody who knows the stuff. Yeah, the service. And they are really trying to put this here, because I think their whole idea was, like if you never enter the store, you don't experience that. So they wanted to put on an event to show that they really care about creators, and I think they do. They're just doing a great job, and it's not a salesy event in any way. Of course, there's the whole floor with all the gear and stuff, and of course they need to make money with that. But all the content creation stages, they're not taking any influence in what people are talking about. I mean, my speech is today, and unfortunately, I think, you know, I don't know if they're being recorded. I mean, there's cameras everywhere, but I don't know if they put them online. But they are not. It's not that they tell you what to talk about at all. So that's quite cool.
Okay, so for complete transparency, CVP and B&H in North America, they are our site sponsors, and of course, as always, we will appreciate if you guys, when you decide to buy something, why not do it through our site? Then we get some affiliate commission, which of course helps us to send Nino and have nice conversation. Yeah, no.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm looking forward to the talk today. Very excited. I'm talking about workflow tools. It's called Ready Creator One, and it's all about adding efficiency to your filmmaking. So kind of trying to take away this scariness of, you know, like a lot of people don't want to, when they hear AI, they're like, oh my God. And I think it's already starting to change. You see this also in a lot of the other talks here, where a lot of photographers and filmmakers are talking about using AI tools to enhance your creativity. And that's exactly what I'm talking about as well. I'm going a little bit into the history of CineD and Cinema 5D, and that we actually started as a site that, you know, was about the DSLR filmmaking revolution, when everybody in the establishment was kind of like not taking us seriously, using photo cameras to film. And it was a similar situation to now, where you have a lot of opposition from people when they hear AI, because they immediately think about copyright theft and, you know, like that kind of stuff. But it's so much more, and it can just make the mundane tasks that you don't want to do more efficient, and kind of take that away from you. And that's also why we are launching this new course series on MZed, which we can talk about now as well, if you want.
Okay, good. So let me just change so we can see here the Efficient Filmmaker course made by our own Masha, which is, she's really great. I mean, she's the way she writes and the way that she's communicating with people, so it's very easy to absorb the content. But you've been working on this together with her. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about the course before we move onward. We talk about the gear and stuff.
Yeah, so Masha is a young director, and she has been working with us for a couple of years and been writing a lot about educational articles on MZed stuff on one hand, and about artificial intelligence. I mean, we've really put her on following all the news there, and kind of, you know, she even did some reviews of video generational tools and so on. And also just to kind of keep track of what's happening, because we think we have an obligation to our audience to really update you guys what's happening in this space as well. And then the idea was born to kind of make a course series together, where she's focusing on AI assisted tools that are helping you to be creative. So and initially we will come out with 3 small courses. We are all branding them the Efficient Filmmaker, because it's really about efficiency, and we didn't want to have the word AI in it, because I mean, it's become a buzzword over the last few years, but honestly, a lot of those machine learning based things that we're using now every day, whether it's audio restoration or a lot of other things, they have been around for a while. So it's really about kind of increasing efficiency in a way that wasn't possible before. And the first course that we just launched is Subtitles Mastery, and it's really about being really efficient of making captions and subtitles. Now that sounds like a really boring topic, but it's something that a lot of filmmakers, especially in post-production, need to deal with many times. And now there's ways, of course, to automatically transcribe videos, and we are looking, in this course, we're looking at that in the 3 major NLE platforms, in DaVinci Resolve, Premiere, and in Avid. And how that works, where it differs. Well, Final Cut we also touching, but I think we're focusing on those 3 mostly because the attached workflow, because it doesn't end there. We then are using these transcriptions, which are of course never perfect, because they are, you know, like automated, and trying to proofread them and translate them into different languages, and then also go down the road at, basically doing a paper cut, because when you have a transcript, you can do a paper cut. What is a paper cut? Basically, it's cutting a film based on the transcription of interviews. So, which is often much easier, right? Especially if if you're editing a documentary, you have a transcript of all the interviews you've done, and then it's kind of playing puzzle. In the old days, I would manually transcribe documentaries that I shot, then literally sometimes print out or in a Word editor kind of move around sentences and trying to keep track who said what, and then it's very complicated because you need to have the time codes attached to that, and then go back into the editing and kind of recreate that in the edit. It's faster very often than going, like when you are in your NLE system and you have the interviews in front of you, it can be very difficult to actually find a specific sentence that was said somewhere. And this is becoming much more easy. If you have automatic transcripts, you can jump to the right section, you can cut it out immediately, or you can simply do that paper cut, meaning you can, dive into that transcript, sometimes even within the NLE, and then, copy and paste portions of what's being said and have a very, very fast way of editing, getting a rough cut of an interview. So that's the kind of stuff we dive into this 1 hour course, and that's on MZed now. And the second one we're going to launch is, but sorry, you wanted to ask something.
Yeah, so you said already that it's already now, by the time that you guys will watch this episode Thursday, that will be online, and there will be an article to accompany this course. How about the pricing? Just quickly want to tell people how they can either access it.
Yeah, so if you are interested in this course, it's the best way to actually consume it would be to become an MZed Pro subscriber, either monthly or annual subscriber. Now, the standard pricing on the monthly subscription is $49, but we have an exclusive BILD rebate until the end of June. So basically just less than 2 weeks, and that's 20% off the first month, and you need to use the code BILD, capital letters, BILD25. So we can put that in the show notes as well. But basically, the idea is you can buy the course individually too, or you will be able to. However, the idea is if you're a subscriber, you always get the latest version, because we will keep this course updated. That's the whole idea of this course series, that she will add additional lessons as the technology evolves, as more things are attached. So, and then we will update you guys as well with a new, content piece talking about what's new. But we will keep it updated. So because this, of course, can easily get outdated quickly if there is a software update or if there's a new cool technology that enhances the workflows even further. So efficient subtitling is online now. And the second course that's coming probably next month we already shot it, is masking. So masking in video is, of course, something that was incredibly hard to do. I mean, it involved rotoscoping, like basically sometimes if you want to select a moving subject, this used to be really, really hard. So you have to almost like paint out every single frame. Now there's 2 new tools that are making it much easier, and they're built into DaVinci Resolve and Final Cut Pro, and it's called Magic Mask and Magnetic Mask respectively. We're comparing the two, we're trying both, and we're showing how to use it, because it's now very easy to isolate individual objects or subjects that are moving in a video. And then, why do you want to do this? Well, you can, for example, do a selective color grade. There's sometimes you have something in an image that needs to be brightened up just a little bit without noticing. Now you can do this quite easily. Or you want to put some text behind a person, for example, or you want to make just the background black and white. This, when something is moving in front, this has become incredibly straightforward now. And that's what we're dealing with in the second course. And then the third course, which is already in production as well, which is going to come out in the summer, is about 3D mapping an environment. So basically helping people to do location scouting, because now we have tools on the phone actually that enable things like Gaussian splatting, if you know what that is. So basically you have an app and you go, if I was to kind of measure this room in a way, right? I'm walking around with that app and just filming every corner of this room, and what I would have as a result is a 3D object of the entire room. So I can, after that, I can literally walk around as if I was in a computer game inside that room. And why is that helpful as a filmmaker? Well, it means that when you do location scouting, you're able to do measurements after you have been at the location. So you don't have to rely on individual photos. You don't have to kind of already try to think about the framing as you are in the room doing the location photos. You can do that in post after you've done that recording, and then kind of already come up with a visual concept of how to, like a shot list of how to shoot in that room. And that's what we're going to tackle in the third course. And that's kind of sci-fi stuff, because it really saves a lot of time. I mean, this is something I've tried once, and it's been amazing how much easier it was when I was finally there to shoot. You know, like it was an interview and like a whole scene in a room, to know exactly where I want it, and kind of have no surprises of what my framing is going to look like and all that. So it's a million times better than just taking photos on location. Oh, but this is an ongoing series, so those are the first 3 short courses that will be part of that. But we're going to expand it into different ways, and it's all about efficiency, workflow tools, and we're going to tackle them one after another.
We'll be back after this message from our sponsor.
1 Minute Tips by Fujifilm and CineD, another part of our Film Set Rules series. Let's talk about the Key Grip, the head of rigging and hardware support on set. The Key Grip is in charge of the grip department, which essentially handles every piece of hardware on set that doesn't directly involve electricity or camera. While the gaffer handles lighting, the Key Grip handles then how those lights are shaped. Think of the Key Grip as the controlling everything that happens in front of the light, such as diffusing and cutting with different flags, materials, or color gels. The Key Grip is also in charge of any rigging that happens on set, whether it's a complex camera rig, a long dolly move, or an unusual light position or setup. The Key Grip will have the hardware and the knowledge to get it done. Grips are builders and problem solvers, thinking fast, staying safe, and making the impossible possible. Stay tuned for more film roll breakdowns. 1 Minute Tips. Until next time.
And now back to the show.
Since we talked about BILD, I just want quickly to talk about a video that you conducted, like an interview with Paolo Frison from Manfrotto, which just now introduced a new innovative hybrid tripod. And this is really good news. I mean, we haven't heard from Manfrotto for quite some time, and obviously they were busy for the last, 2-3 years to develop this specific tripod. And I have to say, I'm really pleasantly surprised. But you were there to talk to the gentleman and hear about more. So in a nutshell, what really caught your imagination here with this tripod, Manfrotto One tripod?
I intentionally didn't read anything about the tripod, even on our site, before I conducted the interview, because I wanted to be, surprised, kind of to be shown what's new. And I was. I mean, I'm impressed by some of the features. Well, they really went all the way to make a tripod that is truly aimed at both photographers and videographers or filmmakers. And we've heard this before, but usually each one of those tripods that we've seen so far, I think, has been predominantly either aimed at photographers or filmmakers. And this one, I can tell that they really looked at both equally. And of course, that immediately creates some problems, because photographers require some different features from filmmakers in tripods. Now, for example, first of all, of course, the most obvious thing about this tripod is the 3-stage design that can be opened by just opening one lever. This is similar to what we've seen from other manufacturers. Also, the Flowtech tripod from Sachtler or Vinton. They're marketing it under both brands, which is also part of the Videndum group, of course, and but different division and really aimed at filmmakers. Has a similar system, but the latches are on top. For the Manfrotto One, they are after the first stage, and it works in a similar way, but it is considerably smaller. So it's lighter and smaller than the Flowtech, and it works a little bit more smoothly. I think it is also. They say it's a completely. I mean, Paolo said in the interview it's a completely different pattern, because when you move this from the top to the first stage down, it needs to work in a different way. And he explained to me in the video also why it makes more sense to have it in this position for photographers. And it does make sense because, filmmakers like using the Flowtech tend to use heavier cameras. So it's good to have your hands up at the camera and with the head when you open them. But photographers are usually, like using mirrorless cameras, or DSLRs in some cases. So actually, it makes sense to have it down there because they can more quickly move out the legs, for example, if the hand is already down there. So he demonstrated it to me and made a lot of sense.
Also, about usability, I saw that you can really disattach the main pole and go so low, which is really great.
Yeah,
if you're
exactly.
shooting.
That's one thing that. So it does have a center pole, and the problem for filmmakers always with this center pole is that this kind of limits you how low you can go, because it always sticks out at the bottom. So even if the tripod legs on many tripods, you're able to get really close to the floor, like really angled out, the pole is still sticking out. Now this pole you can remove, so you can literally take off probably like 3/4 of that pole, and then you can go really low. I mean, this tripod is, I don't know the exact numbers, but it looked like something like 10 centimeters maybe or less above the floor. That's amazing. But the other thing, the thing that fascinated me most was they have a new adapter plate, which is amazing because it's like a new attachment system that allows you to do a very quick attachment or exchange the head. So for example, if you use that adapter plate, you can with literally one hand you can remove the head. Like if you use the photo head, you can remove the photo head, put the video head on, or you can go within 3 seconds between head and slider. And that's literally the fastest way I've ever seen somebody attach a slider to a tripod. Like you don't need to screw around with different plates and stuff, and it was so easy. It's really good idea, and they are selling those adapter plates separately, so you can literally put this on all kinds of things you want to attach to your tripod. So that's a really smart design, I think. There's also a way to,
So they also introduced a new head tripod head, the 500X. Mm-hmm. And I saw that the nice thing about it that this exchange plate is already built in the head itself. So you're saving buying one of those exchange plates. And
correct, and it's built in, and also but even though it's built in, it still has a 3/8 of an inch screw hole at the bottom, so you can still use it with other tripods. You're not kind of limited, so that's nice. Like you have the new functionality, but you're still backwards compatible with other tripod heads as well. That's what I like. Yeah, okay. That's really cool. And also the other thing about the head is that you have the 90-degree thing. So they have another pattern, and that's like. Usually a lot of people need to shoot vertical video now, and the way this has been solved usually is through a cage, right? A camera cage that can be mounted sideways, which is fine, but you still need to attach the tripod plate on the side and all that. Sorry?
Yeah, I just want to play the video in the background. Yeah. Talk to me.
So it's like if you do that with a cage, you still have to attach the the plate to the side. It's a bit of work, and it's literally pressing a button and you're just flipping it out. So it's kind of like the top part of the head is suddenly angled by 90 degrees, and that's really, really cool. I mean, you can tell that they put a lot of thought into both products. I mean, the head and the tripod, and it was all about speed and being fast and changing. And it's truly about, I mean, they're marketing it as a hybrid tripod, and I think they've really kind of nailed hit the nail on the head with this one, because for a lot of people who are doing both photos and video and need to switch between those two things, we all know how difficult that can be if you're tied to either a photo or a video tripod, and you need to switch within, while you're shooting. I think with this tripod, they already have found a way to do this as quickly as possible.
Okay. I just want to conclude and say that the tripod will come in other metal, aluminum, or fiber. So it depends on what you want. Of course, the fiber version will be a bit more expensive. But all in all,
although I have to say the price is not hard, it's not expensive. I was surprised.
That's the thing. That's the next thing. It's made in Italy. Manfrotto always pride themselves on making stuff as much as they can in Italy, and the prices are very competitive. It's as if really somebody realized that if you can't beat, the only way to beat the Chinese manufacturers is really supply good quality, innovation, and good price.
Yeah, they also pride themselves that everything is kind of like recycled material. So, like the CO2 footprint should be quite low on this product. But I was surprised by the price. I expected something around 800 euros, to be honest. But I think the tripod itself like 500. So it's kind of amazing. And the head is just 200. So it's really, it's a good deal. Manfrotto has never been expensive in terms of like compared to other brands from their group. But still, it surprised me that it comes in at that price. You can see that they are feeling the competition from Peak Design and others, of course, and that's good. It's just good for us users.
Yeah, I'm just very happy to see the company being innovative again, and in some ways coming back to the market. And the tripod is a very good start. Very nice. Okay, anything else about this specific tripod, or we can move on?
No, let's move on. So the next thing will be the Canon EOS R1 lab test that our colleague Gunther together with Florian conducted. And that has been requested for so long, for so many users, and we finally delivered. And again, guys, we are really sorry if sometimes we are a bit slow or late. It's just there's so much going on, and there's so many things that we're trying to accomplish in a very short time. So now this is online. And what can I say? If you really want to see the best camera that Canon ever produced, I think you should really look at this lab test. Because, Nino, by the way, did you have time to look at this, or? No, I just wanted to ask you. Just give me the gist. Is it good? Is it? How's the rolling shutter?
No, in all honesty, I don't want to go into the numbers, because at the end, please go and visit the article itself. I just want to say that when I see the results, I really want to touch again this camera, go out and film with this, because at the end, the performance of the EOS R1 is better than the EOS R3, and also better than the EOS C400 camera, which is a dedicated cinema camera made by Canon. So the rolling shutter is better, the Canon RAW is less noisy, and you have more dynamic range. Even the exposure latitude, we have like one stop more, and that means that it's really almost in the same level as the Sony A9 III. And also the Panasonic LUMIX S1 II. So all in all, I think Canon really did a good job, and I really hope that for the next circle of cinema cameras, they will consider to actually use the same sensor. So depending on what you want, and by the way, from the comments that we are getting, people that are actually using the camera can back our claim that this camera is working really well in terms of everything what we just said, dynamic range, latitude, and rolling shutter. It's not a global shutter, of course, so don't expect it to do what it cannot do. But with such a low numbers, I think it's very impressive. Yeah,
we have 8.3 milliseconds. I'm just looking at it now. That's really amazing. Wow. Yeah. For the rolling shutter.
They did really, really, really good. 8.3 in 6K 25p. Yeah, that's very good. So again, I want to thank Gunther and Florian for taking the time and conducting this lab test. And for you guys, if you want to read, this is a very informative information. And let's cross fingers. And we also, of course, we're gonna, whenever we can, talk to Canon and maybe try to find out if they plan to use the same sensor and so on. And of course, it's not only the sensor; it's also the processor in their next cinema cameras. Anything else, Nino, about this?
No, not about this, but yesterday, like we always get stopped by people who read our site and watch our stuff. And first of all, I'm getting a lot of, as you know, a lot of people stop us and congratulate us on the lab test. It's always nice to hear that people appreciate what we do here. It's a lot of work, but I think it pays off. And also the databases. I think a lot of people are using the databases to just, compare cameras and stuff like that. But somebody else, B&H invited people to a boat ride last night, like a circle boat. The weather is so here. It's not so great, but I managed to see the Statue of Liberty. And as I was looking at the Statue of Liberty, somebody, like everybody was there with their cameras, taking photos and stuff. Somebody came up to me and talked to me about the Sigma 1740. And I didn't know anything because I didn't read the article yet. So what can you tell me about that new lens? Because he seemed very, very excited about it.
Yeah, so this is an APS-C lens, and it's constant through the whole zoom range, f1.8. It is, in terms of picture quality, I mean, I know that you really, really like the 1835 millimeter f1.8 from Sigma. And this one is literally 30% less in weight. So it's like a bit shy of half a kilo lens. So, it's wider. It's wider on the wide side, 17 millimeter instead of 18, and it's the tele here is 40 instead of 35. So I think all in all, it's as if Sigma were able to stretch a little bit, and we know that every millimeter counts here. So I'm very excited about this lens. We haven't tested it yet, but it looks like a really great run and gun lens, and it is made for photographers and filmmakers. I mean, you can literally, there's this clutch for the aperture, so it can be either smooth or not. It comes in a variety of mounts. You will have the Fujifilm, the L mount, of course. Sigma is part of the alliance. E mount, we hear from manufacturers that that is really the most popular mount right now, and Canon RF. The only one that actually is missing, and I really have to find out why, is the Z mount. I have no clue why Sigma decided not to have a Z mount. Maybe because maybe they don't have a license to use the mount itself, and we know that they want to do everything legally. But all in all, I think people are very excited about this lens, and for a reason.
Is this one replacing the 1835? Because
yeah,
why would I use? Because the pricing is very similar. I think it's a little bit more expensive, but barely, and it's of course bit wider and a little bit longer as well.
This is something that I still have to check with Sigma. I guess that probably B&H will sell whatever they have until the stock is gone, but we don't have a concrete information if that will live alongside the 1835 or really just replace it. And for the price, this lens is $919 US, which makes it kind of competitive, I think, for what it is. No, it's a great run and gun lens.
Yeah, and considering the tariffs, it's even cheaper in Europe. I mean, it's 760 euros. So that's amazing.
I think I think we should really consider opening the CineD travel agency, and then bring people from the US to shop here in Europe, because it's a bit crazy. Yeah,
I'm meeting people here who are traveling to Europe and Japan to buy stuff because they don't want to buy it in the US anymore.
Yeah, for Japan for sure, because with all the exchange rate, Japan has become very cheap.
Well, they're just lamenting about the fact that you can only get Japanese menus in Japan on cameras, right?
It really depends. In the old days, Sony still used to do this. I have to check if this is still working like this, but I'm not so sure with other brands this is the case.
But I think, like you said, I really like the 1835. I used to use this a lot when shooting still APS-C, and you can even use it on full frame from a certain, I don't know exactly, maybe like 23 millimeters or something. But having this extra 5 millimeters on the long end makes a big difference for this lens, because the 1735 was simply a little bit too wide to shoot people with, like interviews and stuff. And I usually was on the long end when I did a medium shot of somebody for an interview. But now this makes it a lot more flexible, I think. So that's really great.
Nice.
And also, I like that they basically focus on those, that now you have these more unusual focal ranges, which are actually more fitting for filmmakers than, the standard ones that we have. So that's great.
Sure. I mean, of course, we still need to check if this kind of parafocal lens, I don't know, usually for photo lenses, that's not the case, because the priority is, of course, to do autofocus as fast as possible. But since this is a very kind of also focused on video creators, that will be something that we need to check. But I think it seems like Sigma is very busy. First, they had this ISO cine lenses on the high end, 8,000 plus for a single lens, and now you have on the kind of lower end, but still high quality glass, for photographers and video makers. Very nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move
Good,
on.
let's move on.
Yeah, let me just see quickly. And I want to quickly talk about the Blackmagic Video Assist, because now it had another update, 3.0. And this basically adds the possibility for the LUMIX S12 and S12E to record externally to Blackmagic RAW. So, I mean, those, like both of the monitor recorders, the 5-inch and the 7-inch, I think they hadn't been updated for a very long time. I can't remember when those were introduced, but I don't think they're new in our standards. But obviously, they're still getting updates, and those updates are for free. And for those who are filming with the LUMIX cameras, I think they might like this. Of course, all of us would love to see this type of updates happening internally, and this is something that we never understood, why actually no one is able to license from Blackmagic Design the RAW functionality and record it internally. It seems as if Blackmagic Design is kind of keeping it for themselves and only the cameras. But yeah, and if you're already,
I think it has something to do with the debayering, because part of the debayering happens only in post for the Blackmagic cameras. I don't know exactly, but that's what I was told, that, that's usually not what other manufacturers do, and this is why they can't implement it. Might be wrong, but...
Yeah, I mean, it can be that the whole sensor processor needs a different architecture altogether in order to deal with the Blackmagic RAW, but hopefully, since... those both companies are also on the L-Mount Alliance, and they are talking and are cooperating. I really hope that in the future, because that can be a really, I hate to use this name, this word's game changer, but imagine if other manufacturers will be able to implement the internal recording of Blackmagic RAW. But if we are on this subject, and if you want to see the review and a short video documentary that we shot with the LUMIX S12, which is a very capable camera, please check for it. And also, because we are talking about BILD Expo, the camera, the S12 and the S12H, S12E, sorry, there is no S12H yet, are both reducing prices, especially for the BILD Expo. So yeah, if you're into buying those cameras, just check. Okay, moving on to the poll that we actually just about to release. And this time, we're dealing a lot of our polls, we're discussing about cameras, because just between us guys, this is the subject that we really all care about. Yeah, we want to know more about cameras and we hear about cameras and so on, but we can't neglect audio. And in this poll, we want to know if 32-bit float audio is a key buying factor when you buy one of those new audio devices. Nino, for you, is it a key factor?
If I'm talking about audio gear, for sure. I mean, for cameras don't usually have it built in yet, but I think for audio gear, absolutely. Of course, it's such a game changer, just being able to salvage kind of any audio that it doesn't matter if levels are low or too high. There's no such thing anymore. So yeah, it's basically like, the question could also be, would I buy a camera without RAW? And the answer is no. RAW photos, at least. RAW video is still kind of thing, but you wouldn't buy a camera that doesn't shoot RAW photos in 2025. And I think that's where we headed with audio as well. And I think it's becoming really really mainstream. And we talked about the recent firmware update from Sennheiser for their profile wireless, that suddenly with a firmware update you can even record 32-bit float. And I think, I think we can already, it's a bit too early to say because the poll was just published, but my guess is that most people kind of expect this now.
Well, I'm still surprised that some people are not really aware of 32-bit float and what it can do for them. I can say that since the introduction, like as a mainstream feature, about a year or 2 years ago, my workflow as an independent filmmaker completely changed. I will never ever buy a device that doesn't have this thing. And I can also share with you guys that in our exhibitions, many times we are using a proper mic for the interviews, but sometimes you can also see, by the way, Nino is now clipped himself with the DJI Mic 2, but this is just for hard copy, like for recording internally.
Backup.
Exactly, 32-bit. And when I was at CineGear, we did the same, and that really saved the day. So if you have some interferences or anything, you can always go to the hard copy, being recorded in 32-bit. Sometimes you can run it through some processors like audio enhancers from Blackmagic Design or from Adobe, doesn't matter. And then it's amazing what it can do. So personally, as a friendly advice from Nino and I, just look for devices that can shoot the 32-bit audio internally. Good, and I'm very, very curious to see if this specific poll will do as well as the one that when we do about cameras, because it's audio, but let's see. Okay.
Probably not. We have the camera nerds.
Yeah. Okay.
Good. Let's move on.
I want to talk more about, this is an article that actually you wrote, that Disney and NBCUniversal are actually suing Midjourney because of the AI things. Tell me a little bit more about this.
Yeah, so I've been using Midjourney since it came out in 2021, and Midjourney, just playing with it, was actually the first image generating AI tool that was kind of fascinating to use it with a text prompt, and it just spits out images. And with every version that they released, it became more photorealistic. And I'm surprised that this is only happening now, and I hope it's not too late. But Disney and NBCUniversal now decided to sue them specifically, and if you can scroll through the article, you will see the screenshots. Those are screenshots from the lawsuit where they actually demonstrated that you can absolutely recreate copyrighted characters from, in this case, of course, Disney and Universal intellectual property that looks exactly like the originals just by adding a text prompt. And the text prompts sometimes aren't even specific, right? You're like, for example, if you enter, create me an image of monsters is it something with monsters in a, that are looking a little bit more, child compatible, you get images that look exactly like from Monsters Incorporated, right?
This is so stupid. I'm sorry. This is really one-on-one. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. If you're very specific about it, you get the exact copy. And the thing is, if for anybody who knows and has dealt with how those AI models work, because of course they have trained them on all the copyrighted data, which is what, many of us, including us, are complaining about, that basically those companies, and Midjourney is not the only one, OpenAI and all the others as well, probably Google as well, they all trained all the data. They used all the data that they could get their hands on. They didn't think about copyrights. Now, there are people that are saying, well, as an artist, you also get inspired by copyrighted works, and then you kind of base your work on stuff that's been out there already. However, to that argument, I just say, well, if I made if I recreated in whatever a image of Yoda from Star Wars and put that online without permission of Lucasfilm which is owned by Disney, I would immediately get sued by Disney, right? It's the same thing. I cannot fake this, I cannot, because it will be, every court will say, well, you just made this because, it's a blatant copy. And it is. And so they can't use that argument, because you can literally enter a prompt that would kind of spit that out. Now, of course, the way these models work, because they have been trained on all this data, these companies are constantly working on adding system prompts into their AI models, which are preventing people from doing stuff like that. However, they kind of have to think of all the ways that people can prompt in order to get that kind of image. Because the model is, of course, it's kind of thinking, like it's trying to find out what the user wants when you add a prompt. And sometimes, and we've seen this in the past, right? You would enter, something like that. For example, I want an image from Aladdin, and then the system might say, well, I can't do that because it's copyrighted material. And then you say, well, make me an image of a prince and the princess on a flying carpet, and it should look cartoonish like a movie from the 90s. You might get exactly the same thing, right? Because it just knows. So it's almost impossible for them to filter out all of the ways that people can come up with actually, getting those images out of it. And we see the same thing also. It doesn't matter if it's image generation or text generation AI models. It's always the same kind of thing. So they kind of handcuff them by adding these system prompts. And the irony of that, there have been instances in the past where people were kind of asking the models what their system prompts were. And then the models sometimes say, well, actually, I was instructed not to make images from this and that, and it's crazy in that way. There's been a thing with Grok, the XAI model from Elon Musk, where there was this whole thing where he claimed that South African farmers, white South African farmers have been killed, and his own AI always said that it's basically not true, and it's not, this is not a thing that's actually has any statistical significance in comparison to all the murders in South Africa and so on. And then they added a system prompt or several system prompts into that system saying that probably this kind of information has to be augmented in a way. So what happened for a couple of days, XAI, if you ask it a random thing, it would suddenly bring up that topic. You would ask it something completely different, and suddenly would bring up white farmers in South Africa and how they are suppressed. And that made people realize how dangerous those models are, because somebody will just try to impede their own view of the world into this by programming. But people hopefully will find out. But in this case, this is just about copyright, but you can see how hard this is. So I don't know how this can end. It's a bit of an irony, because Disney has been among those AI companies that have actually sought to recreate actors and actresses through AI, basically revive them, and this has been met with a lot of criticism online. So it's a bit of an irony that now suddenly Disney is turning around. Now, I don't think we should fool ourselves. I mean, all those big studios are currently really working hard on actually implementing AI models into their production workflows. It's never been easier to create animation or anything like that, for example, with AI tools. So they will still use that. What they are trying to protect is their own copyright. Now, probably we shouldn't feel sorry for Disney and Universal. However, this can be a good thing for creative people in general, because if this lawsuit is successful, this will be a precedent for a lot of other lawsuits that will come to basically all the AI companies, because you can fool every one of those models into creating images like that. And right now we are at the point where the video generation is also on this tipping point to complete realism. So if you look at this VO3 model from Google that we reported about, and there's also been a Chinese AI model released recently that probably doesn't care about copyrights as well. So yeah, let's see where this leads. But I think it's a good thing in general that this is happening. I just think it's a little bit late that they are only coming out with this now. They could have done this 2 years ago, 3 years ago even, where, of course, the AI models weren't generating these perfect images and perfect recreations yet, but you could still already see that, you know, they could have stopped it in its tracks, and they didn't, and now it's out there. So the question is if they will be able to stop what's happening. But it really is. I mean, I used a quote from the lawsuit in the title of this article. I really think it's a bottomless pit of plagiarism, and they're right about that. And I hope they are successful.
Okay, good, Nino. Lawsuits and big studios. Let's just prepare the popcorn and see the outcome of what's about to come. The last thing that I want to mention and talk about, we actually made a review of the DJI Power 1000 and the DJI Power Expansion 2000. And I mean, you already actually you've been working with this on a production you did. Anything that you want to say about it?
No, just we have those reviews by Marcel Clean, our a camera assistant that we work with, and he's been using them on a couple of shoots actually. And it's very interesting, you know, like, I mean, to have the ability to have these very powerful, huge batteries on set kind of makes a lot of things easier. And he really put it through its paces. So in total, those two units together have 3,000 watt hours and can be used to power a lot of things. And he tried it out, you know, like what works and what doesn't work. And I think it's very good to have those things as redundancy on set, and also, of course, to be, you know, like you can use it for big lights as well, or relatively big lights for at least half an hour, 30, 45 minutes or something like that. So it kind of makes you a bit independent of the power grid. And but of course, I think for average use cases, it's, you know, very useful to have a kind of like charging basis while you're out and about for drones and cameras and stuff like that, or just having it in the trunk of your car. But check out that review. It's online now. It's a written review.
Yeah, I just want to say that, of course, in current modern times, maybe it's just worth to have at home something like this, regardless to filming or not, because it sounds like a good safety net. And it's very affordable. I mean, the unit itself is $500 and the expansion is $700. Good. Nino, I know you have to go. I know you have to do a lot today. You still have some...
Tell me about it. I still have to fly out tonight. I have 2 interviews to shoot, do a presentation, and then somehow get to the airport. So let's see.
Okay, so good luck to you. And guys, thank you very much for joining us from New York and from Vienna. And don't forget to put like, subscribe, listen to us in Spotify and all of those platforms that wherever you listen to your podcasts. And of course, we're going to have also in YouTube the video itself. And that's it. What can I say? Have a good one. We love talking to you. Talk to us back. See you next time. Thank you.
Bye, guys.